Alright guys, check it out. We got the door and the finished panels fully complete. Everything is installed. So, in this video, I'll show you exactly how we did all of this. Let's go. The first thing I'll do is lay out my guidelines for the finished panel, the shelf, as well as the locations for the fast mount clips. I'm using a chalk reel with the help of a laser level to make sure that the guides are perfectly straight. The location of clips doesn't need to be exact, but I'm placing them about 1.5 inches away from the edges. I'll also mark the center line of the wall to make sure that the TV will be centered as well. With all the guides and markings laid out, I'll first install the clips. These clips are super easy to install. The female side screws into the wall using standard screws. One thing to keep in mind is they do need to be installed into the stud or some kind of blocking behind the wall. I'm screwing in this plywood ledge to help keep the finished panels leveled while I press them onto the marking pins, which will mark the backside for the mating clips. The process is fairly simple. The red marking pins are inserted into the clips on the wall, and the panels are pressed up against these pins, which will create a small pinhole on the backside. I'll use a 5/32 drill bit to drill about less than 1/4 inch down into the plywood. If the holes are oversized, then the clips won't hold. So I really had to take my time to get this right, just slow and steady, making sure not to over tighten them as well, because there is some adjustability, and if I do over tighten these screws, then I wouldn't have that adjustability later on when I go to install it onto the wall. One panel down, 4 to go. The next part of the process is to install the doors. I'm using concealed hinges from Sugatesune, which has a slight spring to them. I'm pairing these hinges with a magnetic latch to help keep the door closed. I go through the entire list of hardware that I'm using in the video linked above or down in the description. When I'm installing these hinges, I like to create a jig to help me locate the plate side inside the cabinets. This eliminates any measuring that is needed, and it makes the entire process go so much faster. Because my floor isn't perfectly leveled, I'll need to scribe the entire bottom row of doors to create a perfectly even gap. I didn't know where my scribe was, so I just used a piece of plywood and ran my pencil down the entire length. I took each door out to the garage and used my track saw to cut along the scribed line. In the end, the results were perfect. All right, so I got the brackets for the shelves in, and let's go ahead and make the shelves as well as install this bracket. It's not a typical bracket that you might buy on Amazon or anything like that. I mean, I did get this on Amazon, but it's not one of those cheap Chinese made one. This one is actually pretty cool, and I want to show you exactly what it looks like. Oh, this is awesome. Check this thing out. You see all those little divots here? These are actually mounting holes for screws. Typically, whenever you're buying brackets like these, you're gonna have 16-inch on center, little screw holes that they drill through the metal. But with that, you have to move it around to make sure that you're hitting the stud. This, I can place it anywhere. And because they already have these pre-machined location for my screws every, I think it's about half an inch, for sure I'm gonna hit the stud no matter what. Surprised at the quality of this thing. This is like really heavy steel. It's nicely welded and everything. If you guys do want to pick one up, there's a link down in the description below. I did pick it up on Amazon, but they're not affiliate in any way. I just saw their product and I really like how they incorporate these pre-positioned holes for me to drill into the wall, and I think it's just a smart design. So another cool thing that they include is this thing right here. You put this in the back of your shelf and use this as a guide for drilling out the holes for these pins right here. So it's pretty cool that they include it. All right, just to test the strength on this thing, I'm gonna try to sit on it. Not bad at all. See if I can do some pull-ups on this. I don't got it anymore. At least it works. That thing is super heavy duty. To get the thickness that I want for these shelves, I'm just gluing 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood together, and I'm just using 18 gauge nails to hold the 2 pieces in place while it dries. Once the glue dries, I'll use the drilling guides to create the holes for the wall brackets. I'm really impressed at how accurate these guides are. The shelf fits perfectly onto the wall brackets. The guide that you see me use here does not come with the brackets. It's actually a separate purchase. The only guide that comes with a bracket is that small little section you saw me show earlier. It helps with these longer shelves, but definitely isn't a requirement. They offer these brackets in different configurations based off of the thickness of your shelf. If you're going to install a long shelf like mine, I recommend just going with the 3/4 inch rod version of these brackets instead of the 1/2 inch. I thought the 1/2 inch was going to work, but it didn't really hold up well, so I went ahead and swapped it out to the 3/4 inch version. And finally, after so many months, I get to work with some of the finishing materials for this project. I'm using plastic laminate for the doors as well as the finished panels. This plastic laminate is from Formica. It's their Color Core 2 product line. The really cool feature is that the color actually goes through the entire laminate. With other laminates, there's a brown edge that outlines the actual finished color. In this case, the white goes through the entire laminate, leaving a very seamless edge, which makes the laminate look as though it's wrapping around the surface. The sheet comes in 4x8 or 4x10, and they're pretty expensive. So based on our budget, I chose to only apply the laminates to the front of the panels and the doors, leaving the backside and the inside of the cabinets the natural white birch look, which we really liked. For this project, I ended up using 4 4x8 sheets for the finished panel and the cabinet doors, and 1 4x10 sheet for the 9-foot long shelf. The laminates I chose has a white glossy finish to it. I chose the white color to keep the living room bright, keep it open, and the glossy surface will contrast nicely with the more matted wood slats that will go along this wall. I'm not going into detail on how to apply the laminates in this video, but I'll have a separate video covering the entire process. With all the panels installed, all the doors finished, the shelf looking really good, I can finally peel off all of the protective layers on the laminate. In the moment my wife and I have been waiting for, after 2 years, yes, 2 years, we finally have a TV in our living room. And there you guys have it. It is looking really good. I'm super happy with how it's turning out. Finally, we have a TV that we can actually sit down at night and watch some movies. Things are looking really good. I'm super happy with all the hardware that we're using. These are the magnetic latches from Sugatesune. Color Core 2 is looking spectacular. It has this really cool just reflection that you get on the side there. Absolutely love it. Next up, we're going to go ahead and finish the door, installing the white oak wood slats. That's going to help conceal the door here. And also we're going to have it on this side over here where the altar is. It's going to have the wood slats right here as well. So stay tuned for that video, guys. That's the very last part of this entire series. It's been great so far. I know it's been a very long process, and I thank you guys for following along. And a huge thanks to Sugatesune for providing pretty much all of the hardware that you guys see me use in this build. And thank you, Clark's Hardwood here in Houston. They provided me with pretty much half of the lumber that you guys see here. If you are local to Houston, definitely check them out. They have great products, great wood, great lumber there. Very top-notch premium stuff. So huge thanks to those two companies. If you guys have any questions so far about this build, definitely leave them down in the description below. I'm going to do an overview video at the end after I have the white oak video up. That's going to answer all of your questions. So if you want your questions answered, make sure you leave them down in the comments below. Again, guys, I'm super excited about this. Until next time, this has been Bauer Design Craft Workshop. See ya.